So what made Zubeen Garg so special? I'm joined by two voices of Assam in a way. Kaushik Deka is managing editor, India Today magazine, also edits India Today Northeast. Sanjoy Hazarika, veteran author, filmmaker and journalist. Appreciate both of you joining us. Kaushik Deka, you wrote a very moving piece on Zubeen Garg. Tell us what made him, very succinctly for our viewers, so special.
Rajdeep, it's pretty difficult to pin it down, and for me, it's very difficult that I'm talking about Jubin, who is no more with us. It's very difficult to even believe that he's no more with us. But what I found about Jubin, the specialty is that he was a superstar, but yet he was so accessible. He was everyone's Jubin. Every individual in Assam, whether he is a top class bureaucrat or a business person or a farmer or even a daily wage earner laborer, they felt he was there. Jubin could be found everywhere on the street, in assembly, in big events. There was no appointment. There was nothing that you required to meet Jubin. So we have seen many superstars, but we haven't seen one like him. He was a person who was so kind to everyone. He donated with all his heart. He was always there in Assam's crisis. And I would disagree if someone says he was political. He was never political. He was all about Assamese identity. He would only raise his voice when he felt that there was something bad happening to Assam. It didn't matter to
Right.
him whether it was political or not political, whether it was social, economic, or anything. He was truly a man of the masses, and that's why we saw what happened today on the street.
Okay.
Not just today, for
You're,
last 3 days, Assam was shut
you're,
down.
you're saying you're saying he was in a way someone accessible and in a way a man of the masses. Sanjoy Hazarika, you will recall that the last time perhaps Assam saw such crowds coming in for a funeral was for Bhupen Hazarika. Bhupen Hazarika was the iconic figure of Assam. Zubeen Garg, very different, for a different generation in a way. What, according to you, made him so special?
I think about Zubin, he tapped into a certain angst. He was able to listen to the pain of young people, and he understood that very well. He was able to tap into that and reach people's hearts. I mean, I am not in Guwahati today, but it feels as if there's been a death in every family. That's the feeling, and I think it's important that to
Was that
understand
through his music? Was that through his music or the messaging? Was it, Sanjay, was it the music that touched a chord with people? Or was it more than just the music?
His life, his music, his message was one. There was everything was seamless, and I think it's important to remember that he burst onto the stage with an air of vulnerability, exuberance, and energy at a time that Assam was going through a crisis, of violence and so on, about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And he captured the uncertainty of a generation and gave it voice. And that was extraordinary, but because the man was a genius.
But
I mean,
in
that's
a
just.
way, I take your point. In a way, though, Kaushik, his appeal cut across generations. I mean, as someone on the outside, I was just staggered to see the outpouring across generations. So not just a youth icon, but someone who seemed to represent Assam's identity in the 21st century.
Yes, he did. He showcased that he could represent Assam at the national level, and one important part was that he was transparent, as Mr. Hajarika has pointed out. People knew what he meant for, what he stood for. There was his message, his songs, his music, or his movies. Everything represented the same Jubin. There was no two sides to him. So that transparency also helped, and he he was vulnerable. At the same time, he was stubborn. He would stand up to anything that he didn't like. For instance, when Ulfa issued a dictate that nobody can sing Hindi songs during Bihu festival, he said I would, and he flouted that dictate. And Ulfa even couldn't do anything. No other singer could dare to do that. So he always spoke out whenever he wanted to. He was always there when there was flood in Assam. So apart from his music, the way he lived his life, we all always talk about living life like king size. He actually did that, and in that way, he
Right.
showcased that, as I wrote in my piece, that he was actually perhaps the God's own child. He did whatever he wanted, and he was not apologetic about it. He would not come back and say that, okay, I did a mistake. He did whatever he wanted to do, and he was transparent about it.
Kaushik,
That was the most important part.
Kaushik, I'm going to stop you there. Sanjoy, Kaushik, obviously, as I said, it's very rare to see a singer who in today's world is able to capture the hearts of millions and also give them a sense of identity well beyond just his music. That's exactly what Zubeen did. Sanjoy Hazarika and Kaushik Deka for joining me on this rather sad day when Zubeen was no longer with us. I appreciate both of you joining me, our thoughts and prayers with his family.